Hello and welcome to Think Equal. I really wish I could be with you in person because this part of the program is my absolute favorite. The honor to be addressing our most important workers in the country, those who nurture and support our most vulnerable citizens, our children, to have positive life outcomes. There's nothing more important than that. And I cannot possibly be more respectful or thankful for all of the work that you do every single day. You are at the coalface of change for a better world. And Nelson Mandela, who said, education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the world, defined education, I believe, as follows. He said, no child is born hating another human being on the basis of the color of their skin, their religion, gender, any other factor. A child has to learn to hate. And if he can be taught to hate, he can be taught to love. And in essence, that is exactly what we ask you to do through this Think Equal program, so that our children will thrive and they will love and care and have well-being and positive pro-social outcomes if you but follow the steps of this program and its session guides with fidelity and integrity, purpose in your heart and fire in your belly. That is what I implore you to do. We have a really unique opportunity in the early years when 90% of the adult brain is actually built to nurture caring and responsible, empathetic, inclusive global citizens. We need prevention programs and interventions, especially at those crucial ages when our children are developing their feelings, their thoughts, their primary belief systems, their values and character, their moral compass. The general question that I ask education policy makers the world over is the following. Honourable Minister, I say, how can we, who take seriously our duty of care to our youngest citizens, consider that it is compulsory for them to learn numeracy, it's compulsory for them to learn literacy, but it's optional for them to learn how to value another human being. Optional for them to learn how to lead healthy relationships. This cannot be optional. We must prepare our children not only to be cogs on the conveyor belt to the labour market, focusing on what and how they will earn, but we must also prepare them to live a life with dignity that respects the dignity of others. Education, especially in the early years, must provide our children that foundation in critical thinking, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, self-regulation, gender and racial equality, environmental stewardship. In short, social and emotional learning for well-being, for psychosocial support, and for social justice. And with expert help, we've designed just such a program. We've brought together global thought leaders and visionaries in education, in gender, neuroscience, human rights, and psychology. Giants like Sir Ken Robinson and amazing other experts who have helped us design, build, and deliver a global resource to educate the hearts of the world's children, not just their heads. You might find it interesting, and I'm going to very briefly tell you about how I came to understand that this is the missing subject in our education systems. I was, until 10 years ago, a filmmaker. Made a film called East is East, which may ring a bell with some of you. I hope you've seen it. Anyway, the last film I made, and the last film I'll ever make, was called India's Daughter. And it was a documentary based on a really brutal case. And I must at this point just sound a trigger warning. I am going to talk about a very dark incident, a gang rape, a murder that took place in India. And if it makes you uncomfortable, please, genuinely, just stand up and leave the room and come back in 3 minutes' time. I'm not going to dwell long on it. But I think it's important for you to know, what is our DNA as Think Equal? What did this come out of? What insights? I went to India to cover this brutal, horrific incident. And when I got there, I thought, am I really going to spend 2 years of my life, that's the minimum a film takes to make, making a campaigning film? Creating yet more awareness about gender-based violence? Do we really need any more awareness? I don't think so. And I became seized with the idea that the only purpose in staying there and making this film would be if I could get permission to go into the prisons that these gang rapists and murderers were incarcerated in and interview them and find out what kind of human beings can do what they did to this young girl to another human being. And I got permission. And what I came to understand in 31 hours of interviews in those prison cells over many months was that these men weren't the monsters and the psychopaths I thought I would be meeting. I wish they had been. It would have been much more palatable and easy to accept. But in fact, what they all had in common was a learned discriminatory mindset. They had been programmed and taught by the socio-cultural thinking of their societies. And this happens in every country in the world. This isn't just India-centric. We teach our children how to think when they're little. And then we are surprised when they act in accordance with those biases and prejudices. We shouldn't be surprised. We should be accountable. We should be taking responsibility for having taught them discriminatory attitudes. And it was in those prison cells that I understood that there is a missing subject. There's a missing third dimension to education. And that is this education of our children's hearts. So now, with this Think Equal program, we can together co-create pro-social neuropathways and lay them in the developing brain of our children and ensure that they last for the rest of that child's life. There's ample evidence of that, over 60 plus years worth of evidence that shows that social and emotional learning of quality learned in the early years lasts a lifetime long. And the whole program is evidence-based and neuroscience-led. And we mediate all of this through the powerful medium of narrative, stories and character. We meet the child where the child is at, whether neurotypical, whether a child with special needs, traumatized and we embrace and celebrate that child for who they are. And through the medium of our hopeful new narratives and our 25 competencies and skills, we nurture loving, engaged, pro-social, responsible, mentally healthy children. And what we create in our classroom is a new collective narrative, a microcosm for our future communities of the societies and the countries we want to be. Think Equal is also, it must be said, a mental health response tool at a foundational, critical level post-COVID. It is you who hold our collective future in your hands. I implore each and every one of you here present to give your heart to this sacred work with our children, and in doing so, to create a safe place and a dignified and equitable world. Please, I beg you, be open to following the session guides, the steps of it, as a way to even-handedly ensure that all our children across all countries that we are rolling out in are sharing the same steps towards this goal. We are by your side and at your service 100% always to ensure the success of this program for our children. And I thank you profoundly and with all of my heart and being for joining the Think Equal program.